Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Can everybody mute, please? Everybody hit the mute button, and then obviously when when we have Q&As and you can unmute and talk, that's perfect. But we muted you. Here, let me get Did you get muted, Shauna?
Oh no, I was muted myself. I was explaining how to get
okay, cool.
meeting to somebody else. I'm sorry.
All right, cool. Okay. So here we are. We're going to start with doing the gauge swatch. There was a lot of talk in the group about knitting a gauge swatch and the proper way of doing that. And so Shauna, since they're often the most difficult part of knitting a sweater is simply getting the sizing correct, because it doesn't matter how perfectly you knit the sweater, if it doesn't fit you or whomever you are going to give the sweater to, if it doesn't fit you, then it doesn't matter how well you knit it. So sizing is super, super important. And that's why there's always a little bit of a learning curve from knitting, shawls and blankets and those kinds of things, and then skipping on to sweaters. It's not that the actual knitting is usually that much more difficult. It's simply knowing how to get the right sizing. And Shauna will be able to show us how to do that, how to gauge correctly. And take it away, Shauna.
Great. Hi, guys. So I have been knitting for almost my whole life. And I won't tell you how old I am, but I've been doing it for a while. I've taught classes in person and online. So the thing, I think it is really important to know how to knit a swatch, because like she just said, like that's half of your battle is making sure it fits. I know that I have spent hours knitting things before I did swatch regularly, and I would get halfway done and I would go to try it on and it wouldn't fit me, and I'd be really disappointed and I wouldn't want to knit ever again. But I'm here. So I think the best way, and you know what, I don't have any examples here because do as I say, not as I do. I don't swatch very often now because I know my tension. If I use a new yarn, then I will swatch. But what you want to do is look, it's normally measured in 4 inches. Knit a swatch that's at least an inch bigger on all sides than it asks for. And then some people will go as far as washing and blocking. I don't think that you have to do all that. If you want to be 100% correct, you know that you're going to block your sweater and you know that you're going to be washing it often, then I would probably wash and block as well. But make sure that you knit a square that's about an inch larger on all sides than you need to measure. Your tension on your sides and your cast on and cast off rows, it's not the same as your tension in the middle of the project. And we only cast on and cast off about twice during a project. So, there's no reason to measure that. So then after you knit your swatch, your 6-inch swatch in this case, you just measure the middle inches that you need. In this case, I think it was 4 inches. And then, I did measure my swatch. I did measure after I had knit a little bit, and it's okay to be about a half a stitch bigger than or smaller if it's a sweater. If it's something like a blanket and you have just like feet and feet that you're knitting, then that half inch that half stitch is going to make a big difference for every inch. So does anybody have any trouble with blocking, or not with blocking, I'm sorry, with swatching, or has everybody been able to swatch in a good way, in a way that makes sense to them for this project?
I have a question. Should we be swatching on straight needles rather than the circular?
It doesn't matter. Okay. Swatch on whatever you're going to knit on just by brand. I always like to use the same brand for the same project. So if I always use circular needles, so for me it's always circular needles, but it doesn't make a difference in the long run. Your stitches are still going to be the same size as long as you're using the same size needles. Does anybody else have any questions with swatching?
I haven't swatched yet, so I don't know if I'm behind the curve or what, but
No, I think in the past few days, I think a lot of people have been swatching, talking about swatching. So that's why we wanted to talk about it here. And yeah, I just saw Paula said she had to go up a size. A few people I've seen have mentioned that they have gone up no more than one full needle size. I think it's about maybe a half a millimeter difference that you'll need to go up. Yes, ma'am. Paula. You're muted.
Yes, so I did a swatch with size 7, and then I went to size 8, and I didn't like the integrity. It just wasn't the same. So that's why I have this other program that will tell me how many more stitches I need to obtain my. It's an app I use, and it does the math for me, and so when it did the math ended up that it would be a size bigger. Instead of making the large, I'm going to make the extra large, and it should fit my husband. So I just wanted to point that out in case anyone didn't understand that sometimes you can just change the size that you're actually making. But the problem I ran into then was because this is a kit, I needed to buy another skein, and they didn't have it in the lot. But I'll figure that out. But I just wanted to mention there's more than one way to skin a cat, kind of.
Sure. Denise, did you have a question? You're muted. Denise?
I also swatched. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I also swatched with a size 7 and a size 8. And I also did not care for the fiber with size 8. But for me, the finished measurement is a little bit large. So I chose to cast on, and it's going to be smaller, but I don't know how to do the math to get the proper size I want.
Okay. Are you in our Facebook group?
I'm not on Facebook at all.
Okay. Pamela, can you put my email in the chat? And then Denise, you can email me and I can help with.
Okay.
You know, I can't put it in there right now, Shauna. Something's wrong, and it won't let me type in the chat. It's quick.
Okay.
So
here, I'll put it in.
Yeah,
Shauna, I had a similar issue when I swatched. I did one swatch in a 7, and it was one stitch too big, and my row gauge was off. So I dropped down to a 6. My row gauge is perfect. I'm one stitch too many now. And so when I did the math, it just told me to go up one size.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that you can do as well. Obviously you guys are doing it. So if anybody needs help figuring out what size to make for what needle sizes you want to use, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. You can email me. I'm going to just put my email in the chat. So I can help everybody with the math and getting that figured out for you.
The pattern didn't say how many stitches of positive ease there were. I'm assuming it was 4 to 5 based on some other things I saw on Facebook. Is that what you would advise, is 4 to 5 inches of positive ease?
I would. Yeah, that's actually exactly. I have written down 4.5 inches, and I reached out to the designer because I think that that's really odd that they didn't include how much positive ease to include here. But the designer hasn't emailed me back yet. So I cannot give you a definitive answer, but that is what I'm doing, 4.5 inches. Just based on
Shauna?
Yes, ma'am.
I think too, it just depends on how you want it to fit. You know, do you want it snug, or do you want to put another shirt on underneath it, or you know what I mean? It will depend a little bit on that. I wouldn't do less than 2 or 3. That would be the very, very least I would do, simply because it would look weird, I think. But anyway, according to, some people like them kind of oversized, and I know that the pictures looked like the model was modeling a size way bigger, and and it was looked kind of, it was a look, and it just depends on how you want yours to fit.
Yeah, I actually think that they made both of these sweaters in the same size,
I think so
because
too.
later she has on the dark green one at the end, and it fits her
Yeah.
the same way that this fits. So
Yeah.
she's wearing obviously like a men's, I mean, not a men's, but like a large at least she's wearing.
Yeah. And it just depends on the look you want to go for. But yeah, and that might be why they didn't include it. But yeah, I agree with you. Usually patterns do say. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep. I mean, I think as long as your chest measurement is smaller than the size that you make, I think that it's going to be fine, because most people I think are going to wear this as an oversized sweater. So, I mean, the only part that I think will be important for everybody is sleeve length. And I've already seen a few people say that they've shortened the sleeves by about an inch. So the body, if you want the oversized look that they have in these pictures, then, it's fine. This is not like a stickler, this sweater, like for Gage. There are some sweaters that definitely are, but this one I think is pretty lax. Just the sleeve length is something that you're going to, when you get there soon, very soon, you're going to want to watch out for the sleeve length. And those are simple because you can measure those as you're making them. It's difficult to try on a sweater sometimes, I think, as you're knitting it. So it's hard to know. You just have to put a lot of trust in the designer. But the sleeves are something that you can definitely check as you're knitting it to make sure that it's fitting the right way that you want it to. Does anybody else have any questions about swatching?
Well, Shauna, could I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When I swatch, I try to put like a little garter edge. I knit a few rows of garter stitch, and then I knit like 3 or 4 stitches on either side of garter, so that when I get it knit, I kind of have a frame of those 4 stitches. That way, when I block it, I don't know.
But you can do that, definitely, but by the time that you've knit the garter row stitches and then you knit a few stitches after that, your tension's already even back out from knitting the garter stitch, but it looks better. And some people think it's easier to measure that way, because then you're just measuring like what's right actually knit. So that's just personal preference.
Okay.
When I knit swatches, I normally don't, but that's not to say that I never have or I never would. So yeah,
it's not a hard and fast rule.
Right. Yeah, you can and I mean, you can use swatches to practice different kind of selvage stitches. Ones that you've never done before, because just a garter row on each side, that's a type of selvage stitch. It's just a 4 row or 4 stitch selvage stitch. So you can practice different selvage stitches and get learn some new things every time you do a swatch. So yeah, it doesn't have to be just for the sweater. It can be for other things too.
Shauna, I have a question. I swatched on 7s and 8s, and I do like my 8s, but I'm getting perfect stitches per inch, 19 stitches per inch. That's fine, but my rows are not right. Is that going to cause a problem anywhere, like in the sleeves or anything, like the sleeve hole?
I can't think of anywhere that it's going to cause a problem for you, because everything you knit to 14 inches, you knit to 16 and a half inches.
So that's not going to be a problem in the sleeve area or anything fitting in the sleeves?
No.
And it's close. I'm getting 27 rows and I should get 29. So I'm 2 rows off.
Right. Yeah. No. As long as you like the way that the fabric looks that you made. No, everything. I have one. I've knit in the round, and then we all have to split for panels, so a little bit just for the top. And so I have one panel completed on the front and then half of it on the back. and one sleeve done, and there's nowhere that you wouldn't knit to length. So I
Okay.
don't think that's a problem.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
For sure, no problem. Julie, was that you talking? I'm sorry, you just popped up with a question.
Oh, wasn't me.
Julie?
I had a question, but I think I'm waiting until you get to the part of how to convert it from flat.
Sure.
to
Yeah,
round.
we're gonna
I'm
talk about that.
casting on, but don't know how many
Okay.
stitches to cast
There
on.
you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, but I don't know why I don't have a picture up, but on my swatch on the 7s, I had 20 stitches for instead of 19. Is that like 19 and a half to 20, depending on how I stretched or didn't? Does that,
Yeah,
is that
no,
gonna make a difference?
for this, I think it's definitely okay. As long as it's about no more than a stitch and you like the way that the fabric looks.
Yeah, I
You
do.
know, if it was like 28 stitches or something, then I think we need to change needle sizes. But no,
Okay.
that shouldn't be a problem as long as you understand that it's going to be, I'm trying to think of how many, I would say it's going to be about 2 inches bigger than your than what's listed around wide.
Okay, well, that's okay. When you were talking about the positive ease, I did an actual chest measurement. I ordered the large kit, and then I looked at the finish measurements, and it was like 4 to 6 inches. I can't remember now, but so I actually dropped down. I'm going to make the medium size, and the finish measurement is still 4 inches bigger than my actual measurement. So it's okay to. And then if you're saying that because of my gauge, I'm kind of adding 2 inches back in, so it's probably a good thing to drop down to a medium then, right?
Right, I would, especially with those kind of numbers. I wouldn't, if there's more than like 6 to 8 inches of positive ease, I don't think it's gonna fit very well. I mean, it's gonna look like a little bit baggy. So I think I would feel comfortable telling you to make a medium, hearing that.
Okay.
If you wanted to fit roughly like the picture.
Yeah, I wanted either that or less baggy, so that's kind of why I dropped down to the medium. So, okay,
So,
I'm gonna try to get on my iPad for some reason so I can get a picture up here. So, is it okay if I drop out and come back in, Pamela? Does that work out?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll keep an eye out.
Okay, I'm gonna try another device.
So 3 3/4 of ease would be sufficient to have a relaxed fit?
I think so. I always say about 3.5 inches is when you start looking at like a more relaxed fit like this.
Okay.
Kind of like a, I don't know, I call it like a unisex fit in my classes. So yeah, I think that that's like right at the beginning cusp. So it's gonna look a little bit more fitted, I think, than it probably does on her. But all my clothes, my personally clothes look more fitted than they do on her. So I mean, doesn't matter what size they make, it's not gonna look like that on me. So it's gonna look better. I'm kidding. Sherry, do you have a question?
Yeah, about the curling of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
swatch. Is that normal with stockinette?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and that's totally okay, because you're just measuring the middle few rows. If you make it oversized, that's another reason that we don't want to make it just exactly the size that they say to. So curling, totally fine. You know, you can. It's storming now really bad here in my house. I'm so sorry if there's gonna be thunder. There was just a really big lightning. But that's totally fine. If it curls, no problem.
Okay. All right.
I
Thank
would
you.
be worried if it didn't curl. I would be really jealous if you could knit stockinette and it didn't curl. So
Okay. Thank you.
Also, yeah, absolutely. And your question, Sherry, you said, does it keep it from curling? I cannot type in this chat. It's never happened to me before. But yes, if you do knit the garter, it does keep it from curling. Neither
Okay.
here nor there, but just it would, yeah.
Okay.
And then Lori has a question. for
Yeah.
Shauna, would you cast on with a stretchy cast on or a long tail, or does it matter?
It really, I would probably do, well, let's make sure that, is it just for swatching, that you're gonna cast on this question, or I would cast on the same way that you're gonna cast on for the project. I would do everything the same that you're gonna do for the project. It doesn't matter, because we're not gonna measure anywhere near the cast on row. So, we're gonna measure about 1 inch up from that. So the cast on doesn't particularly matter, but we're making a swatch to make sure that everything is the same, our sample is the same as our project. And so if there's anything that you can do to keep it the same, then do that. Just think of it like a scientist. Like a scientist is always gonna, do all the same things every time. So yes, Denise, yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Denise, I think started to talk, but she was
I'm
on.
sorry.
And yes, ma'am.
Me?
Well, Denise had started to talk. She's still muted. And then,
Okay.
so let's get her question and then yours.
I used a tubular cast on just so I could possibly have that baggy look a little bit. Is that maybe
totally fine.
Okay?
Totally fine. Whatever you want to do. It's this is your sweater, and whatever you want to do is fine. If you want to take out the middle row because you don't like that, we will take that out. If you want to cast on like a German stretchy cast on, then cast on like that. Like, it's your sweater. There's no rules. There's no rules for anything. Like, we could get halfway done and then change it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. And I'm so sorry, it says Zoom user, so I don't see your name. So Zoom
Okay,
user.
yeah, Linda.
Linda,
Yeah,
okay.
I knit very tight, and so I automatically did a swatch in size 8, but I have to admit I only cast it on 1 extra on each side, and so anyway, but my swatch came out doing just 1 extra on each side, a stitch short of 4 inches for the extra small. So should I, so if I knit another swatch the way you suggested, should I try like 7s for a small?
It's hard to tell without seeing your knitting in front of me. I would assume that, just based on what you just said. But I mean, it doesn't take very long to knit a swatch, so I would try the 7s first if you want to knit a small in the size 7. Do you not like the way that it looks with the size 8 as well, or?
No, I like how it looks. I just don't want to knit something too small.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I like something a little oversized. I like how it looks in the picture, but it is 1 stitch too short on a size 8 for a gauge.
Let me just look, because I did not make a size small.
This is why I don't knit sweaters, because my gauge is very tight and I can never get a gauge right. It's always a stitch off, and this is my problem. Yeah, I always have problems with this. So
well, I am looking here and I'm gonna guess, so you cast on 90 for an extra small. So I'm gonna say that that's probably gonna give you about 1.5 inches difference if you're a stitch too small. So it's going to be about 1.5 inches smaller widthwise than you're expecting, if that's what you're doing. So I probably would not make an extra small, because 1.5 inches and an extra small, that's a lot. That's like 8% of the width. So
yeah, I should just go with the 7s and do the small size.
Yeah, I would.
I'll do a spot. Yeah, okay.
But you know what? I mean, I don't know how tightly you knit, so you may be knitting just, up to the density of the fabric. So it may not be that much of a difference for you between a size 7 and a size 8. So I for sure would swatch with the 7 and see what that looks like. Because you might like the way that it looks better with an 8.
Okay, I'll see. Thanks.
Sure. Yes, Denise. You're muted.
Okay.
Oh, wait, you muted, then you unmuted again. Or unmuted and then you muted, I'm sorry. So you're still muted. You're still muted. There you go.
Now, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so just thank you for doing, I hope you're gonna do the math for me. But I'm getting 20 stitches for 4 inches with a size 7, and I like the fabric. And I'm making a small, and it says the finished circumference is 43 3/4,
Mhm.
and my bust is 39.5. I
So
mean,
you're gonna be-
36 and a half, forgive me. Am I
You're
gonna
gonna be
be
looking-
okay?
You're gonna have about 8 inches of positive ease then, I would
That's
say.
a lot.
Well, if it's 36 and a half and you're making, you said a medium?
No, I'm making a
Or
small.
yeah, it's small. So it's 43 and a half and you're at an inch. Oh, you're at 20 stitches per 4 inches. That's
Yes.
gonna be just under 2 inches extra past what it is.
So I may want to go to a different size then if I do want it to be a little bit loose.
Well, right, loose without being baggy.
Can I block aggressively?
No, it would be the opposite way. It would be a little bit too big. It would be a little bit bigger than you're
Okay.
expecting.
Oh,
So
Oh.
2
So I
inches
would- I
bigger
would
than
not
what?
block.
So 2 inches bigger than what the pattern says it's going to be. So if the pattern says it's going to be X inches, add 2 inches to that.
Yeah. So you're gonna be just under 46 inches. It's gonna be 45 3/4 inches.
if I'm getting 20 stitches per 4 inches.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, everybody.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This is what this is for. It's totally fine.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any more questions about swatching and sizing and all that stuff?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you mind
I
muting
really
again?
have some problems.
Is this Linda?
No, this is Candy.
Okay. Oh, Candy.
I think
Candace, okay.
if you're not
Yeah.
speaking, then if you can mute, that would be really great. I think it's gonna help this.
Yeah, but
What-
she's trying to talk and I
what
think
was
there's
that?
something wrong.
Right, I think there's an echo from somebody not being on mute.
Is that better?
Everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
That's better, Candace. Yeah, Candy, yes.
Okay. I have really been trying and I'm getting very discouraged. I did a swatch with 7-inch needles. I got 17 stitches across, 26 down. And then I did another one with size 8 needles. And I got 17 across and 26 down.
Okay.
And I'm trying to do a large.
Okay.
So what size of needles would I don't like tight fitting things.
Would you consider using the size 8 and then making an extra large sweater? I'm afraid if you keep moving up in stitch sizes, I'm afraid that the integrity of switching back and forth from purl to knit is going to be a little bit lost in like bigger stitch sizes or bigger needle sizes.
Yeah. So go ahead and do it with the 8 needles.
And then consider making an extra large, right? I know that you are in the Facebook group. So if you want to message me with your measurements, we can take a look and I can use the information that you've just given us. And I can do some math for you and see what size would fit best and what makes sense for you.
Well, I called when I ordered the yarn, and I told them my bust was 45. So she said that a large would work.
Right, and normally it would, but if you're knitting in a way that you're getting, like your stitches are so tight that you're going to be using like a size 10 needle, I think it makes more sense to go up a size rather than to keep sizing the needles up.
Okay, now are you guys gonna have more yarn though?
We have more yarn, yeah,
Because
and more yarn is coming. Let's see, probably the end of next week. This is Pamela talking, sorry. Probably the end of next week, or the beginning of the following, but yeah, we have more yarn coming. That won't be a problem. I was interested though. This is Candy, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
It's me.
I was interested in the fact that you said you got the same gauge with both the 7 and the 8, or did I misunderstand?
The 7 is 17 across, 26 down. That's after it's flushed. And the 8s, I got 17 across and 26 down. Same thing.
Yeah, you know what I would do personally? I don't know what Shauna will say to this. I defer to her, she's the expert, but I would say knit the swatch again, because sometimes I knit differently, and sometimes I've had to like knit it twice just to make sure that I wasn't in kind of a different knitting mode, or maybe more stressed. Sometimes when I'm really stressed and whatnot and hurrying, I knit more tightly, or I don't know. Anyway, Shauna, what do you have to say about that?
And I'm so sorry, I thought that you said that you had a stitch more on the size bigger. So I'm so sorry. If I had realized that it was both the same size, I would have said
no, they're both the same. Before I washed it, it was 18 stitches, but I washed it and it was 17 across.
Okay.
Well, did you block it?
Yeah. And I've used the same swatch twice now. Can I use it again? Or is that a no?
The same yarn for the swatch?
When I did the swatch, I just ripped it out and redid it again.
Yeah, that's fine. Well,
okay,
that's fine. I probably wouldn't go more than one more time using the same yarn, just if you're washing it, just because it's going to lose a little bit of the elasticity every time.
Okay.
So I would be careful, just because you're not knitting the sweater with yarn that has been washed multiple times. You're knitting like with fresh yarn. And so I probably like, and you don't have to get rid of that yarn. Like you can use it for your cuffs, like on your sleeves. You know, it doesn't have to go in the trash after like the third time if you need to knit a couple more times. But I would probably use after about the third time, I would start with a little bit more yarn, fresh yarn.
Oh, okay. And so you want me to do an extra large, and okay, so I will do an extra large and with 8 needles.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As long as you like the way that the fabric looks with a size 8, because I know a couple people have said that they haven't. As long as you're okay with it, which I like the way it looks with the size 8. I made the 27 color snood, and that's a size 8 needle, and I love that. So as long as you're happy with that, for sure, I would just size up instead of, because I know that you have been like a little bit stressed out about the swatch. Don't worry about it. I mean, do worry about it. Yeah, I'm kidding. Do worry about it, but don't stress yourself out. Don't beat yourself up. Like this is like supposed to be a relaxing hobby for us. And I know that normally it's not, but it's, you know, it's supposed to take the stress off, not add more stress. So that's what, you know, I tell my kids all the time, there's no rules. And I know I said that a little bit earlier, like there are like a little bit of rules, but there are no rules. So if you want to, everybody, not just Candy, everybody, if you want to knit this in a like a 3X with size 3 needles, you can do it. There's no rules.
Yes.
Okay, well, I will try, and I will probably have to get some more yarn, so, but I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very, very much.
Sure.
Yeah,
And we're
well,
here for you.
exactly. Thank you, Shauna. I was just going to say, hop onto the Facebook group, in between, and we'll see you next time as well. So okay. So
thank
then
you.
you're very welcome. So Linda asks, I'm waiting to cast on, but I don't know how many stitches to cast or when converting to do the project in the round. So that takes us to, did everybody see, I'm going to say it again at the very beginning, since I'm somehow locked out of the chat, but at the very beginning, when they were still letting me post, I posted a document, a Word document. It says Pemberton Pullover. And if you can download that, that will Shauna is going to talk about how to use that in converting it to the round. So
Yes. And I
yes, this is
doing
the
it
exciting
again.
part.
Yes, part that everybody's been waiting for, except for those that wanted help on swatching and they were waiting for the swatching part. So
No, swatching is super important. So
I
very
know
good.
it's so important. It's so important. And I really am going to knitting HE double hockey sticks because I don't swatch very often. But I know, I'm so sorry, guys. Do as I say, not as I do. Pretend like I swatch every time. So I am actually opening up the document because I have not seen it after I sent her the information. Okay, so I sent it to everybody. So does everybody that want to knit in the round? Well, is there anybody that doesn't want to knit in the round and they have a question that I can answer before we go into knitting in the round? Because I don't want to, if you guys don't want to like stay for knitting in the round and you want to hear everything, then yes, Denise.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I've already started and I'm doing it flat, but I'm really pretty good about sewing seams together. And I just decided this would be easiest for me. And I don't have any questions, but please address anything that comes up, realizing that someone else is knitting it in the flat.
Yes, ma'am. I'm knitting them both. So we are going to talk about both. But I just didn't know if there were like any pressing questions because I didn't want to make everybody wait till the end if we talked about knitting in the round first. But
okay,
briefly about knitting in the round and then we will move on. Yes, Susan.
So I also started too. I would have loved to know that I could do it in the round, but I'm pretty far along. I'm just starting the parallelogram, so no turning back now. But I do have questions at the end, but I would love to hear about the round. So thank you.
Yes, and you can use this to convert any pattern that's knit flat, and you can use it in the round. And if you guys are on the Facebook group, I am always available to help you guys do some math if you need me to, or just to explain things better. So you can, this is not specific just to this sweater. This is for everything. Okay, so we have our information here. Does everybody have the document up?
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Okay, you have size 6s and size 7s. Now this is Candy again. If I use a size 8, you want me to go down a size 7 for the other one?
For the extra large?
Yes.
I want you, if you're getting the same size for your swatch, I want you to do another swatch of whichever one you'd feel comfortable knitting, like with the size 7 or size 8. And if that comes up about the same that you're getting now, then use that one. But if it comes up like wildly different from the swatches that you already have, then reach out to me and we'll see what's going on and we'll see if we can figure it out.
Okay. Well, you've got two sizes here. Size 6 needles, 16 and 24-inch circular needles, and you've got size 7 circular needles.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I use an 8, what is the size 6 used for? What size?
For the ribbing.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's
so
for
I
the
would
ribbing.
go down a size.
Yes,
for the ribbing.
So for anything that I have designed or I knit myself, I always do 2 sizes difference in the needle size for the ribbing and the actual sweater itself. I like a tighter ribbing. So if you want to stay with a size 6, like if you like bought a size 6, if stay with the size 6 for the ribbing and then do the sweater in the size 8.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so everybody has the document up. The first numbers that you have, what we're going to cast on to knit in the round, and I have mine here. It is in pink. Everything in my house is in pink. My bathroom is getting tiled right now and it's pink. Everything's pink. So I have mine here, and it actually, mine is a little bit big.
I'm sorry.
So we're going to knit up to, I would say, right after the parallelogram is where I split mine. You can see where I split it. And so here is my front. So I have the top part is still going to be a panel like everybody else, but then we're going to knit just the bottom part in the round and then split it. So you're going to cast on for this specific sweater, you're going to cast on double what they ask you to for just your panel, and then you're going to subtract 4 because we don't have the selvage stitches on the end. So we don't need to have those when we cast on. So that's going to save you a little bit of time. It's for everybody. So if you are knitting an extra small, it's 176 stitches. Small is 200, medium's 216, large is 224, et cetera, et cetera. They're all there. So it's formatted the exact same way as the pattern itself. So just look at it exactly the same way you would as the cast on in the pattern. From there, everything's the same in the beginning. We're going to do 2 inches of ribbing. I did 2.5 inches. Oh, see, there's no rules, guys. You can do whatever you want. I did 2.5 inches of ribbing. And so then we're going to just knit in the round. Just knit it in the round, knit the whole body from the bust down in the round. And then when we get to right after the pair, and everything matches up. So when we're doing the charts, and I'm going to talk about the charts in a minute, all the charts will match up. You'll just knit around and you'll read the chart like you're reading a chart in the round, and everything matches if you subtract the 4 stitches in the beginning. Then, and this is just a super brief overview, like really fast, just so that we understand like the construction of the sweater, and then I can answer more questions that anybody has and go into detail about the different stages. So then once we get right past the parallelograms, and I split mine actually on the first row of the purl after the parallelograms, we are just gonna, okay, this is the only hard part, and I have already done the math for you. So actually for you guys, it's the easy part. So you're going to count and put stitch markers at the place that we've listed here. And Pamela, like switch them all or put them all, type them all out like per size, super nicely. So you just read the size that you're making, count X amount of stitches as you're going, put down a marker, keep going. So what we're doing there is we're just splitting the sweater into quarters, 4s. And then,
oh, okay, let me see.
My mother, she has unmuted herself. Then after we split it into quarters, on the next round, we're going to just take the first 2 quarters. We're going to cut the yarn, take just the first 2 quarters or just the back 2 quarters, whichever you guys prefer. And then we're going to add the panel on top. So we're going to put, we're going to join a new piece of yarn and then just knit up exactly the way that the pattern states. And then after you get that done, you're just going to turn it around and do the same thing in the back. So we're gonna make the sleeves, then we're gonna knit it all up, and then we're gonna wear them, and we're gonna have a group picture, and everybody's gonna be so beautiful. But really, I know that it didn't sound super easy when I was just explaining everything, but I just went through all the schematics of making a sweater in 45 seconds. So now we can break it down and we can talk about like each step individually. If people don't have the document, I am gonna copy and paste everything. I see somebody doesn't have the document. So I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. Oops. No, I'm not. Hold on 1 second.
Well, I think it's Linda B is the only one who doesn't see. Do you see the document in the chat right above, Linda?
No, I
It's
don't.
right. It's right above your. Do you?
Where?
Now it's not letting me type.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
no, I
don't
can
know
type
what's
now.
going on. Well, I tell you what, I'm sending the document out to everybody through email. So if you don't see it here, just watch your email. I'll send an email with it to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, Denise, you have a question now before we go into everything? You're muted. You're muted. Denise, you're muted. Denise, I didn't hear your question, Denise. You're muted.
There we go. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? I'm wondering about short rows for the back. So it's a little bit longer because backs often come up. And I'm just wondering, what is your recommendation for short rows?
So in this, the way that this sweater has been written, we're not going to do any of that.
I lost you.
Oh, you know what? I think Shauna just got kicked off somehow. Hold on.
I lost you. I lost Shauna.
Yeah, Denise, I think Shauna somehow just got kicked out of the Zoom. I'm sure she'll get back on here in a second.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you. No, this is good. All is good.
She did say she was having a storm, so hopefully she didn't lose power.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Where is she?
Here she's coming.
No, what state?
Oh, so, North Carolina.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, she's back, I think. I think. Find her.
Sorry, guys. I have a storm going on. I'm so sorry. Okay. So what was I in the middle of saying?
Short rows.
Short rows, yes. So the neck is offset. Did you guys hear anything about what I said? It doesn't matter. I'm going to say everything all over again. So in this particular sweater, the way that the pattern is written, you start the neck in the front about 2 inches before you start the neck in the back. And so that just naturally is going to draw the neck forward, and you don't have a need for short rows in this case.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
I'd rather not do short rows. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a hassle. I know. Okay, so in this, and let me get up here. Okay. I have to pull my. Okay, so we're gonna knit. We're gonna cast on the double the number of stitches -4. Does everybody see how many stitches that they have to cast on if they want to convert it to the round, or does anybody have any questions about why we do that again or anything? Okay, cool. So then make the ribbing. You're just gonna knit the ribbing, and we're gonna cast on with the smaller needle still in that case. Everything is the same for the pattern, except for what's different. No, everything is the same. So we're still gonna use the same size needles that we would have used if it was flat. We're still gonna do the same amount, like the same number of rows that we would have done if everything was flat. We're just gonna do the bottom, the bottom 28 inches, no, the bottom 18 inches, 16 inches are gonna be in the round. So from there, after you cast on, you're just gonna, like I said, knit your ribbing in your 6s, switch to your 7s or your 8s or your 9s or your 6s, stay on your 6s, use 4s to do the ribbing if you're smaller. And so then you're gonna just knit, just stockinette stitch. So only knit all the way up. From there, once we get to the part where you are supposed to, I'm gonna read exactly what it says to you guys, where it says purl 2 rows, work stitches for 2, or work stockinette stitch for 2 rows, and then purl 2 rows. That's the only part that's really going to change. And it's only because we're not flipping the fabric back and forth as we're knitting. So the way that it works out, that's in your, that's in the document as well. So if you guys who are choosing to knit in the round want to make a note, so where it says on page 3 in pullover back, in the 3rd little section where it says purl 2 rows, work stockinette stitch for 2 rows, purl 2 rows, knit 2 rows. The way that that works out is listed in this document. So it's going to be purl a row, knit 3 rows, purl a row, knit 2 rows, and then purl a row. Now, personally, I didn't love that there's an extra little bit between this one and the second one, then the second one and the third one and all the others. So I just took that extra knit row out, but that is just something that I preferred. You know, if you guys, that's what I just said with the knit and then the purl and then the knit, that's in the document that was sent. But I can type
and
that.
Susan, your question, is that written somewhere? Can that be sent via email? Yes, I'm sending that, yeah, through email. Yeah, okay.
So
Sorry, can I ask a question about that? The what was the garter rows? So in my pattern, okay, let me see if it adds up. So it's purl 1 row, knit 3 rows, purl 1 row, knit 2 rows, and then purl that last row?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's no problem. It's just we're not switching the work back and forth, and so now you're going to be doing different stuff. But that's the only place that happens. The rest of them, read the pattern as written, because it's right. So we're not going to make any other changes. And then once we do that, we're just going to follow the pattern as written, literally as written. We're just going to do it like you're reading a pattern in the round. So here where it says that knit on right side and purl on wrong side, or no, knit on right side, purl on wrong side, and then purl on right side, knit on wrong side. We're not going to do that anymore. So for everything that's white, you're going to knit, and for everything that's gray, we're going to purl. And that's for the parallelogram chart. The other one, we'll have already split it, so you'll read it as written, but just for the parallelograms, we're going to read it like it's a pattern in the round. Then we're going to knit. I did it on, let me see where I did it. I put my stitch markers down on row 24 of the No, that's the diamond part. I put my stitch markers down on row 18 of the parallelograms chart. So from the back, which I assume that you guys are going to have the seam in the back, but some of you may want to have the seam on a side. That doesn't change where we're going to put the stitch markers. So you're going to have your beginning of row or your end of row marker, and then we're going to knit the number for your size that it has here. And then from there, place marker, do the same thing 2 more times. So we're going to have 3 additional markers, 4 total, and it's going to equally distribute the stitches in 4 quarters. And so then what we can do is, if you want to split, then you can. I would split it on the first row of the purl after the parallelograms. And so you're going to cut your yarn then. Oh, Luann has a kitty. But you're gonna cut your yarn. And so then we're going to reattach the yarn to, I worked my front first. So the 2, not the first quarter, but the second and the third quarter, I reattached my yarn at the beginning of the second quarter. And then I knit half of the sweater and just continued on exactly as written in the pattern. And so then, and like, you don't have to do anything with like, do I have to go back and forth? Like, do I have to do short rows? Do I have to wrap and turn? You don't have to do any of that. You're just pretending like, yes, Denise. You're muted.
How do you attach your yarn?
Well, what I do is, I knew somebody was gonna ask. I have to tell you guys that I don't do this the right way. So what I do to attach yarn is I will just leave about 8 inches, 10 inches, and then just start knitting. And then later I'm gonna weave this in. But as for like changing skeins or something,
yes,
I tie a knot.
Do you really? You make a knot?
I tie a knot. I tie a very, very loose knot just to keep everything in place. And then when I'm done with the project, I go back through, I untie that knot, and then I tie a knot a little bit tighter, and then I weave my ends in. And that way, if you wait to do that until the end of your project, your tension is set and the knot won't slip through and come into the front. So
Okay.
if you tie the knot immediately, it's gonna slip through because your tension's not set. But at the end of the project, if it's down here, you know, you can, what I do is I tie it in a knot and then I weave my ends and I weave in about 3 inches of it.
Okay.
However, you're not supposed to do that. The correct way to do it is to leave about 7 inches and then weave in 7 inches without tying a knot. So do as I say, not as I do.
Okay,
But
I just wondered how you did it.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, a lot of people ask me that, and I feel like I should lie, but I don't because I want to be honest. But there's a trend now I've noticed with like younger people learning to crochet, especially, and they use fabric glue and they glue their ends down. Just as long as you don't do that, don't glue your ends down.
Oh, golly.
So
I don't think so.
yeah, as long as you don't do that, it's really fine. But again, like this is your sweater, so if you want to tie a knot and then it slips through the front, who cares? It looks handmade then. You know, it doesn't look like a machine made it. Then you can say, look, I did it because here's a knot right here that came through. So
Thank you very much.
no problem. After though we attach the yarn, then you just keep working the pattern literally as written. And then especially for the chart, the diamonds chart, this chart, we're going to go back to reading it as written up here, knit on the right side, purl wrong side, because now we are flipping the fabric back and forth and we want to create this picture. We don't want to create half of it in verse and half of this picture every other row. Everything else is the same. Nothing has changed going forward. I have knit almost the entire sweater at this point. There are no other changes. So then the only thing that you have to remember that makes it different is now you have this little bit here that you're going to need to sew together before you sew the arms together. I probably wouldn't, I haven't sewn an arm on yet. I probably would not do this all, you know, in one go. I'd probably sew this up separately and then sew the arm on. But just don't forget to do this or you're going to have a little hole under your armpit. So, does anybody have any questions about knitting it in the round?
I do. So the arms are knit separately.
Yes.
And sewn. Okay, we're not picking up and knitting down.
No, just because they have a cap on the end, and so I think that I don't want to make it everything too difficult, but you definitely can. If I was making this just for myself, I would. But because I'm doing it with you guys, I'm doing half of it the right way. So it's definitely something that you can do. And you can do this, like I said before, with every sweater. This isn't just for this.
Great, thanks.
And another thing too, you can knit the arm in the rounds, you know, up until you get to, you can do the same thing with the arm if you want to knit the arm in the round. And just, you know, sew it on separately because, and you don't want to knit the arm flat, then you can for sure do this same thing. Does anybody else have any questions about knitting it in the round?
I do. I apologize because I lost my Zoom shortly after you came back. I have read through the pattern and now I'm seeing the document that you've shared. I'm more confused than ever. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so when it starts the pullover, it says to so I'm making the medium, which has 110 stitches, but I'm going to do twice that. Minus 4.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm knitting from the bottom up.
Yes.
Right? This is my second sweater. My first sweater was a top down, so this is a new experience. Then where does this noted garter rows come into play?
On the, so where it says pullover on page 3 and then back, on the third little section, it says purl 2 rows, work stocking net stitch for 2 rows, purl 2 rows, knit 2 rows. You're gonna do the purl, knit, 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 purl, knit, knit, purl instead. That's in the document.
Is that right at the top of page 3 on the left-hand side where it says work and stack bricks?
No, so I'm on this, so I think that your page 3 is probably different. I have it printed out, but it's at the very beginning where it says step number 1, pull over and then back.
Pull over and then back. Yes, that's where I was with the cast on, right?
Yes, ma'am. And so it says with the smallest circular needles, then increasing 2 is the next section, and then like the little paragraph, like one sentence, like the instruction. So the first instruction is the cast on, and the second instruction is increasing for some, and the third instruction is the purl 2 rows, work stocking net stitch for 2 stitches, purl 2 rows, knit 2 rows. That's where you're gonna switch out.
That's where I'm going to do the purl, knit, and are each of these rows?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put a little marker there. Okay. And then I'm going to knit up to, I'm going to do a lot of knitting, right? Just knit in the round, knit, 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 knit for inches.
Yep. Or you said you're making a medium. So yeah, you're gonna do, well, everybody's gonna do it until the piece measures 11.5 inches.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I have enough information to get started.
Yeah, and then are you in the Facebook group?
I am.
Okay, so I'm there. I mean, and you can
Okay.
ask, yeah, you can ask any question there. I know that's what somebody just said. It's a lot of information, and that's why I know that there's no questions, because it's too much information to take in. So I'm on Facebook all the time, and I did put my email in the chat as well. And then you know, anytime that you guys need to get in touch, just tag me on Facebook, or you can message me on Facebook, or email me.
Yeah,
I prefer Facebook, please, Facebook.
Yeah, just
thank you
just
very
a
much.
little. Yeah, just a little note about that. I would prefer also if you kept it on Facebook, and the reason why is because anybody's learnings are going to be, you know, you'll be able to help other people. If you post it in the Facebook group, likely somebody else is going to have that question as well, and so it will be helpful for the whole group. So that's just one thought on that. Then Lisa Miller says, how far do you want us to get before the next meeting? So I mean, it depends on how quickly everyone knits, but if we say that everybody is up to the armholes, to split the armholes for sure, or what do you think,
Yeah,
Shauna?
if we could be ready to split the arms, or to split to the front and the back, that would be really great. Like if you guys came with, you know, almost a foot of fabric that you have knit your 4 stitch markers on it, that would be really great, because then we could all do it together.
Yeah, and everybody knits at I'm not sure why this isn't, everybody, I'm not sure why it wasn't switching to me, but everybody knits at a different pace. And so I was thinking, you know, that this is really great, Shauna, that you've kind of given a whole overview. That way, if some people want to scoot on ahead, that's great too. But don't worry if you're a little confused about some of this, because we'll go through it step by step, or I should say Shauna will go through it step by step all along the way. So
yeah, just for now, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, just for now, if you cast on the number of stitches that it says, and then knit 2 inches in ribbing and knit 11.5, or I guess 9.5 inches of stockinette stitch, I know that everybody can do that. I feel very confident that everybody can do that. And the next time we will get into the really hard questions about splitting everything. But Susan, I see you have a question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I do. Glad that you pointed out that the woman is probably wearing the man's sweater, because I'm doing it for a young man who's slim, and I actually sent him some questions at the very beginning because I didn't understand the ease and all that. So he's really slim, so I thought, okay, I'll do a medium, but then I hadn't really looked at all the pictures in close. Everything's kind of big about it, like the armholes look really big, and I didn't know, and so I'm getting up to where I'm just about to start the parallelogram. So I was going to get through the parallelograms and stop. Because do you think there's a way to modify this pattern to make the armholes smaller and make the arms a little smaller so they're not so baggy?
Yeah, there definitely is. And that is just simply not starting it where it says. So we can just, the armholes are big. And actually, I really am not sure with mine. My armholes are a little bit bigger than the pattern even calls for, actually. My armhole is about an inch bigger, so I don't really know how that happened with mine, probably because I didn't swatch. But just keep knitting past the parallelograms, and then I would say like halfway through the moss stitch is where you would want to start your doing everything as written for splitting the armholes, or for starting your armholes.
And that makes sense. Find off a little later, but then I would assume when I make the sleeves, I need to make fewer stitches on the sleeves because they're going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. And
this is gonna be new to me because I've never put two pieces of knitting together. So it's the sewing together that I have these future nightmares about.
Yeah, I hate sewing. I hate sewing just in general. Like I hate weaving and even. I have like 20 sweaters that are done and just sitting in a pile in my room because the ends are not woven in. I hate it. But I have always found if you connect it together at the very top, the very bottom, and then both sides, you can only mess up a quarter of it. So, because if you get messed up, then just stop there and start again with the next quarter. So you can only mess up 25% and everything else will be good. But we can figure out how, when you decide to start for the armholes, we can figure out at that time how many stitches you need to have for your sweater or for your arms themselves so that it can line up easily and it's not like, pouched out and puffy. So, but it definitely can be modified really, really easily. Casting off, you cast off a few and then you just knit two together on both sides, and it's super simple. And so you can do it and it'll be even and it'll look the same and it won't look like you modified it. It'll look like it was written exactly like that. I know you can do it.
You do an arm already? Are the arms kind of big in size?
They are, and I had to make my arm a little bit bigger, just because my sleeve was a little bit bigger. So, but they are a little bit big. I wouldn't, and this is for everybody, this isn't for you because we already know you're going to make yours smaller, but I wouldn't make the arms any bigger than what is written. I wouldn't modify it to make it any bigger. They're like just on the cusp of being like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah, I think it's great for her. Since I was making for a guy, and I think he might actually wear it to work. Like, if it's not really good, it needs to just be not tight, but not loosey goosey.
Yeah. These are like, and we can't see the whole sweater. This isn't a 3D model. His sleeves might be pinned in the back.
That's what I was thinking once I saw hers. I was like, did they pin? Did he get it tucked under his arm? Yeah.
Oh yeah, his sleeves might be pinned in the back, and like that's why I have already told a couple people like, don't look at how many stitches is here, even if you think you're making the same size, because we have no idea what size this is or what's going on behind them, or even Photoshop. Like maybe they photoshopped it to make it look 2 sizes bigger on her. Who knows? So just go off.
That was all super helpful because once you get into it, you're like, okay, I'm committed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I understand that. I wish that I felt that way, but I hear what you're saying. So, all right, Sherry, you have a question?
Yeah. So is anyone doing it flat?
I am.
A couple people here, yeah.
You are? Okay.
I am also.
Okay. What are
Me
the,
too.
I'm not an experienced knitter by any means, especially with sweaters. What are the advantages or disadvantages between doing it flat or in the round?
There's no advantage to doing it flat because I hate doing sweaters flat. I'm kidding. No, there's advantages for everybody. If you like to sew, like if you're a sewer and it's like your strong suit over knitting, then for sure do it flat because you can make it look beautiful. I don't want to spend the time lining things up because there's a lot of things to line up here. So I don't want to spend the time lining things up and then I get to like, halfway through and I'm like, oh poop. I actually am off by a lot. Denise, I see your hand. I'll get to you in 1 second. And Denise is making it flat as well, I think. But in the round, especially if you're not an experienced knitter, I know that it sounds like a lot, what I just said, like, switching it from one to the other. But honestly, those things that I just explained, it's only like 2 steps. So it was a lot of explanation for like very, very, very little amount of the pattern itself. You're going to know that you have the same amount of stitches on both sides of your panel. You're going to know, everything. You're not going to like that's going back to lining it up. It goes much faster in the round too, because you're not flipping it. and I knit about twice as fast as I purl. And so if I can get out of purling, I will get out. I hate purl. And so I almost didn't make this sweater because I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of purling and I don't like it. But it, it's just a solid, almost a foot of just knit. And so, and it's in the round. And so you don't even have to do anything. You can just mindlessly knit. Whereas if you're flipping it back and forth, you're like, oh my gosh, 8 rows ago, I accidentally purled in a row and I should have knit in the row. Doesn't happen. So that I think is the main advantage to doing it in the round. But yeah, I mean, like people like to do sweaters. You can make sure that it's blocked evenly if you do it flat. I'm not a big blocker on sweaters unless they have cables, just because cables pull. So I don't personally think that I'm going to block this. But if you do block sweaters, if you do like the look of the blocking, then that will be something to consider because you can block them exactly evenly, both sides, if you need it flat panels. And that's something, I mean, like, you have 2 sides of the sweater that you're trying to pin down at once if you knit it in the round because it's just one piece of fabric. But like I said, I know it sounded like a lot to switch it to in the round, but it is seriously just one row really that you have to worry about, and that's the row that you split it. So thank you, Susan.
So just because oh, bye Susan. Just to add to that and confuse everybody just a little bit more. There's another element that sometimes comes into play, and that is knitting it flat and seaming can cause it to be just a little bit stronger on the sides, and maybe it will hang a little differently. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. And with all of that knitting, I think I would want to knit it in the round as well. But I'm just saying that's another thing to keep into consideration, is those seams stabilize things. Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
And then Denise, you had a question? Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, after the first 11.5 stitches or inches of stockinette, they want you to do a selvage stitch. So that's just slip one knitwise, correct?
Well, the selvage stitch that they have listed in here is knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side. So they want
So there
you
really isn't a selvage stitch?
It is, I mean, any stitch on the end is a selvage stitch. Any stitch that gives it, that's different from the pattern and gives it extra structure is a selvage stitch. And it doesn't just have to be one stitch. That's what I was saying with the garter stitch earlier. Like it can be a number of stitches. So what I understand, and I actually asked for clarification of this as well, because I would read this as to knit the selvage stitch and to purl the selvage stitch on the wrong side.
Okay. Okay.
But
So
if you slip the stitch, as long as you have a stitch there, you're going to use that for seaming. So as long as you have that stitch, I'm going to say, because I know that it's not going to really change the outcome in this. So if you feel more comfortable, flipping the stitch is going to give you like a better looking row. It's going to make it more even. And for you, that may be easier to seam later, to sew later. So if you want to just slip the stitches on the ends, I think go for it.
Okay, I'm surprised if they want you to slip a selvage stitch that they didn't do that from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. It's
Okay. No, you've answered my question.
Oh, no problem. But there are a few things that I asked for clarification for, just because it wasn't immediately obvious to me. And so I assume that it probably won't be immediately obvious to some other people. So I did ask for clarification on that too. So I hope that I'm able to answer you definitively next time.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So the selvage stitch doesn't apply if we're doing it. We don't add any stitches because if we're doing it in a round, correct?
Right, that's right. And there is one thing that I didn't mention, and I was just thinking about that. Later when we cast off for the armhole, we're just gonna cast off one less time. So because we don't have the 2 selvage stitches on each side, one on each side, so we don't need to account for that later. So we'll just do one less. But each pattern has, or not each pattern, but each size has the stitch count that you're going to want to need going forward after we split. And so if we have that amount, it doesn't matter where you, as long as you get rid of the selvage stitch at the same place in both, like don't diminish it at the beginning of on one side and the end on the other. As long as you do them both on the end and get rid of them both on the end at the same time, then that's fine. And I can answer more questions about that as we get to it, but we're just gonna bind off one last. Julie?
Okay, does that work? Yeah. Okay, so I'm doing the medium and it cast on for the ribbing 110 stitches, and then I'll switch to the bigger needle. So I'm not casting on 112. I'm just using a stitch at either end just to slip, or that's automatically in there. My selvage right. Automatically in there.
Right.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay. Thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions about either? Or about anything? I can answer it, but don't ask me about brioche knitting right now, please. Anything else?
Oh gosh, Shauna, you've given us so much great information. Thank you so much. I think our heads are all swimming now with all the information, and and I know that we will get to we'll be asking probably the same question again as we get up to the different stages along the way. But if everybody's good and everybody's ready to knit for just the next couple of weeks and know that you have access to Shauna and the Facebook group, that's fantastic. Any little snags anybody runs into, they can talk to her there. And again, thank you so much, Shauna. This is really helpful.
No problem.
Really
and
helpful.
I just want to say that is a beautiful shawl behind you.
Oh, hold on. Ha ha ha.
It's
okay,
so pretty.
This shawl right here.
It's beautiful.
Everybody, this is going to be going in the shop very soon. It's a pattern designed entirely by Shauna. So we're going to have an exclusive Shauna Jotik exclusive in the shop very soon. And this yarn is fantastic. It's a great, and here, I want to show you. This is what I mean, aside from it's really cute, I just love that it's really long and relatively thin. That way it goes around and it stays around your neck and it doesn't slide off.
I hate it when they're like blankets. You're like wearing it and you're like, oh my gosh, I have 12 layers on.
Yeah, you don't need it all the way down your back. And anyway, you can't really see. I haven't done it very well, but anyway, just think it's beautiful. Getting ready to knit one myself, and can't wait to get it in the shop so that everybody can buy a Shauna Jotik exclusive pattern.
Yes.
So,
and Denise has one last question before we go.
Oh, okay, here we go.
She's got her hand up.
You're muted.
You're muted.
May I have your email address that you share with the public?
I just, if we do the email address thing, I'm afraid Shauna is going to get absolutely inundated with emails. And I really would rather have, I would really rather have the questions done in the Facebook group. So that way everybody can can learn from all of the questions.
All right,
I
thank
feel
you. And
I feel bad. I feel bad because she doesn't use Facebook. So if she were, I'm sorry to put you on the spot and like make you say yes to this, but if she were to email me and then I posted the question on Facebook,
Yeah,
would that be okay?
I didn't catch that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that she didn't use Facebook. All right. Okie doke, we got it.
I don't.
I promise
don't.
I'll post.
Okay, I'll give you Denise, I'll send you her email address then, okay?
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That's kind of you, and I do understand very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. This
Very
has been
good.
great.
Thank you. Okay. So if that's all the questions, I think we're gonna hop off for now. It's been an hour and a half. I know that I've learned a lot. Shauna, once again, thank you. So grateful for all of your
No problem.
information. So
Yes.
how's the storm?
I think it's passing now, but I just got a notification on my computer. It says heavier rain soon. So, ooh.
Yay.
I know. Well, I mean, we live in a historic home, but the roof is new, so fine. It can rain as much as it wants to.
Good for you. Just get out your boat and oars in case something happens.
Good.
All right, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm going to send out an email with all of the document for the directions in case you missed it here.
Perfect.
So
that'd be lovely.
ciao. Have a great weekend.